I worked on this application for a bunch of years in the early part of the 2000s. I don't know, the aughts, the zeros, whatever you call that. And I would get dragged into a room by our business owner every couple months, and he would beat me up over autocomplete. He'd sit here and look at him and go, Nate, I'm spending millions of dollars on this fancy new web app you're telling me I got to have. I don't have autocomplete. Seriously, I have Quicken at home. Quicken cost me $62. It's got autocomplete. Why can't you give me autocomplete? Man, did I have a lot of fun there. All right. So again, we got these forms, we got holes, we got this standard request response paradigm, and unfortunately for us, a lot of our customers had seen that richer possibility, and we took that away from them because it was good for us. It was a lot easier for us because we could control the class path on the server. There was fewer of those. We didn't have to deal with all those nasty installation issues. But of course, nothing stays the same in software. I mean, that's true about life. You're either changing or you're dead. There's really no in between. So what happened? Anybody remember when this thing came online? Yeah, wasn't that a game changer? So I remember growing up, I thought that my dad was pretty bright because we'd drive anywhere and he'd know how to get there. And I remember being about 10 and kind of having this little moment of panic going, God, I'm going to be driving in a couple of years. How am I going to know how to get from point A to point B? You know, my dad has clearly memorized every road in the United States. And then one day we're going on a road trip, and I noticed that he pulled an atlas out from under the chair, and he was slumming through it, and I thought, oh, okay, there's the trick. A little bit of my dad's sort of, omniscience died that day. My son has no illusion that I'm all-knowing when it comes to driving because I have a GPS. My GPS tells me where to go. And the kid will point this out to me. I picked him up at daycare once, and I had the GPS. I can't remember why, and I had punched in the route to home, and he's like, Daddy, why is the car telling you how to drive home? I don't know, because why not? It's there. Now, for me, this kind of stuff was awesome, though, because you could drag it and drop it. I thought MapQuest was really cool until I saw this. I went, wow, I don't have to do a complete refresh every time I want to change the zoom level? Well, of course, wow, how could you do it any other way? And I remember for the longest time until MapQuest finally baked that into their world, which took way longer than it should have. Anytime I run into a website that was using MapQuest, I'm like, are you trying to drive me away? Because seriously, this is how it's supposed to be. All right? Of course, the game changer for a lot of us, this was what sort of awakened me to the ideas of Ajax, was this bad boy right here. You guys remember Google suggests you start typing? Now, of course, we realized very quickly that this isn't fast enough. Now we have Google Instant. You start typing and you see search results. Of course. You realize the next step is you'll open Google and the search results will already be there. It's going to be tied into that Google Glass thing. Like, we noticed you had a compiler error. Would you like us to search Stack Overflow for you? Yes, I would. Thank you for asking. That's so great. So for us guys, this was a big shift. This was the era of RIA, rich internet application. We finally were starting to kind of bridge this gap a bit. I like calling it the husky client because it's kind of in between. It's not too thick. It's not too thin. It's Goldilocks. It's a good thing. We've had a lot of fun playing with this for the last several years. A lot of us would argue this is the best of both worlds. Easy enough distribution, rich enough interfaces, again, kind of an in-between thing. But again, notice, guys, there's just this theme that seems to be running through the software we're writing. It's just this back and forth, this sort of pendulum motion of moving things from the client to the server and back again. We're doing it one more time. Right? So we're starting to hit a zone now. We're pushing more stuff down to the client, but we mean a different thing when we say client. Now we're talking about the browser. The browser is the client we're shooting for. And these browsers are much more powerful than they used to be. And it wasn't that long ago that asking a browser to do any non-trivial JavaScript function, it's like, whoa, you're going to get that beautiful error message. This script is taking a really long time to run. Right now, with V8, Nitro, Jaeger Monkey, whatever how do you think they name these things? Jaeger Monkey in particular? That had to be a bar bet. It had to be. I love it. Although my son had this game growing up. It was you match the front and the back half of an animal together. And if you match the right ones, the front and the back of the horse, it says, you made a match. And if you do the wrong ones, it says, oh, you're silly, you made a horse cow. I'm guessing that's what they did here. They put a 5-year-old out with some things, hey, let's see what he puts together, Next thing you know. Now, of course, we're asking the clients to do a lot more than we did before. You guys are probably aware of this thing called HTML5. All sorts of new stuff is open to us. HTML5 lets us do offline stuff. HTML5 lets us find location, which is also a little creepy. All sorts of fun stuff hiding in there if you haven't played in that space. All right, we get web workers, so now we can finally multi-thread our JavaScript, kind of multi-thread our JavaScript. We get WebSockets, so we can talk to our server directly, as opposed to constantly having to do the handshake every damn time. We can actually make these things work without an internet connection. And you notice what sits behind a lot of this? Something that's gaining in popularity these days called REST. REST is fun, by the way. It should be pretty obvious. I'm still having that fight internally. People still insist that, no, of course we need the whole WS Death Star stack. I don't know about that, but so be it. And of course it relies pretty heavily on JavaScript. As inconvenient as that fact may be, it is the fact. Right? Now, I'm going to admit, guys, it's a quirky damn language. There are bugs in that language. Guess what? There are bugs in Java, there are bugs in C#. There are things about any language you use for more than 5 minutes that you're going to hate. It's the nature of the beast. Fight it all you want. It's reality. Either embrace it or go back to the server, because this is how it's going to be. JavaScript runs everywhere, by the way. You know, if you guys look at ClojureScript and you think, geez, why the heck did these guys decide to get a Clojure compiler that emits JavaScript instead of Java bytecode? It's because of the reach. JavaScript's everywhere. Like, I will bet you money your TV, if it's less than a couple years old, it's got a browser in it. Guarantee it. If your menuing system, odds are pretty good, that's a browser. A really, really crappy one, by the way. It will make you pine for IE6, but it's a browser nonetheless. It's run on JavaScript. It's first-class citizen, guys, and we're writing a heck of a lot more of it than we used to. But this opens up some really new, interesting possibilities for us, and that's pretty darn cool. Right? That's really exciting for what we're trying to do. It gives us some interesting options. So for the first time in a long time, we can break out of this request-response paradigm. Now, some people refer to request-response as click and wait. I think that's fair in the way a lot of apps have been designed. But if you notice, more and more of the stuff you're interacting with on a daily basis, we're taking the same concepts we've been using in Ajax, you know, these partial page refreshes and updates, and we are turning that knob to 11. All right, you're getting more and more of these single-page applications. And you know what? You're going to run into some that, boy, that really shouldn't be a single-page web app. Yep, absolutely. That doesn't invalidate this concept. Right, so we're starting to enter this era of what people refer to as the asynchronous UI. Why do we care about this? Why is this something that's starting to pop up? A huge part of it, guys, boils down to performance. Right, performance matters a lot to people. Right, now, you can argue about whether we're really changing performance or simply changing the perception of performance. The reality is it doesn't much matter. Here's one of the interesting psychology tricks we can play with you on the UI side of the world. If I make you wait for 4 seconds, but I give you no indication that anything's happening, that 4 seconds feels shorter if I give you a progress bar. Even if that progress bar doesn't mean anything, which is clearly the case in the Windows file transfer thing. You know what? It's awesome. It's like, I'll be done in a minute. I mean, 2 hours. I mean, 60 seconds. Yeah, it's like all over the place. How's that work? Clearly that was written by an intern. Just pick a random number. In the web, milliseconds matter. They add up. You know, and I'll admit, I always kind of thought there was a limit to human perception in terms of, boy, if we've got this thing responding within, let's say, half a second, you can't tell the difference between 300 milliseconds and 600 milliseconds, except you can. And that's scary to me. Right? So Amazon, if they add a mere 100 millisecond delay, they see sales drop by a full point. And if you've noticed their margins are razor thin, you know, they lose money, and then they make like, $7 million in a quarter on like $14 billion in sales. So that is a pretty big deal for them. You know, and it matters to us, probably not in this exact quantity, but people just leave. Right. Now, if Yahoo adds 400 milliseconds into their pages, they see a drop in traffic that's close to double digits. I didn't know they had enough traffic to even see that. That's what they say, sir. I don't mean to pick on Yahoo. If Google adds a half a second, now this to me is okay, I can understand people can sort of feel the difference in a half a second or not. That drops traffic by 20%. Isn't that mind-boggling? I mean, would you ever have guessed that? But that's what we're talking about here. This level of performance matters to people, even though it shouldn't be something you can even notice. Yeah, you can. It does matter.